Good morning, everyone. It is tulip planting day, and it's just going to be me behind the camera because Stuart had a relapse and he is sick again. So everybody send up a thought and a prayer for him. You can see the flags that I've got outside. I'm looking out my bathroom window into the low southern sun, and you can see some of the flags that I've got in the ground out there. And those are my markers. So that the guys know where to plant the tulips. And again, none of this one at a time. We plant, 15, 20 to a hole, if not more. So I've placed my flags outside and I'll be going out there shortly to check on the progress. No, I'm not doing it myself. I did it for many, many years, and now I'm inside cooking in preparation for Thanksgiving dinner. But you can see all of the bulbs lined up out there in their mesh bags, thanks to ColorBlends. So let's do some planting. And here's our technique. We just dump all the different varieties into a great big wheelbarrow. And I think right now we've got all sorts of French Rose blends that are going into the tub. My kind of sorbet palette that I have every year. Now, in terms of when you can plant them, I typically plant mine right before Thanksgiving. But there's a long window of time, so you could start doing it now. It's finally cooled off enough for us to be able to do it. You need 2 good solid weeks of pretty substantial sweater weather before you want to get them in the ground. But you can plant them well into December. I know lots of people who aren't doing theirs until the first couple of weeks in December, and I've even planted some the last part of December, and they were just fine. We're going to plant some in the window box, and you can see that I've also got some pansies and violas that are going to go in after we get the tulips in the ground. So some will go into containers, but today we're pretty much concentrating on just getting those fabulous tulip bulbs in place in the flower beds themselves. If you haven't already ordered your tulip bulbs from ColorBlends, then I suggest that you hop on it. Some of them might even be on sale, and just see what they have left. It's not too late. So we're planting them all along the edges, and wherever there is a pink or an orange flag, that's where a clump will be. Now, some of the clumps may look like they're a little bit too close together, but remember that the perennials that are still in bloom right next to those flags, the salvia and other things, those perennials are going to die back, and they will not be in place once the tulips begin to emerge from the ground. We can cut them back now, but why? We'll leave those seed heads on, and then we'll cut them back in the spring as the tulip tips begin to emerge. You can see that I'm going to plant lots of them along the berms and along this berm, and then all along the brick on the upper terrace. So it should be pretty spectacular and quite dramatic to have these hundreds and hundreds of tulips in bloom in the spring. And here is my color palette for the pansies and violas. These are cool water mixes in a 50-50 blend. There might be a little bit more white than the purple. Excuse my shadow, you guys. But I love this mix, and what I love about it is that it will look beautiful with the purple salvia when the salvia begins to bloom in early to late spring. And the white, well, it just really, the color of that pops and travels very far. The other day, I went ahead and I planted some violas at the base of the boxwoods that I planted in the pots that used to have seasonal color from last summer, the lantana and the pentas and things. So I planted those, and then the remainder of all of these pansies and violas, well, they will be planted in the foreground of the tulips along the edges. And up here, surrounding the social patio, there will also be tulips. And then what I'm excited about this year are some, and these will bloom a little bit later, but nevertheless in the spring, I've got some weigela, 2 weigela shrubs that are planted back in there, and also a mock orange, one on this side and one on the other side. So I think it's always important to have something new and different to look forward to every spring to kind of keep your excitement levels high and keep you motivated to garden into the hotter weather. Well, thanks to the Herculean efforts of Kayla and her troops, we have gotten all of the tulips into the front flower beds and all of the pansies and violas planted. We're going to reserve the backyard for another time. The window box has been planted. All of my containers now have a little fringe of violas and pansies. And you can also see that as I laid out my design earlier, that there are a lot of pansies and violas running up and down the sidewalk. That was my friend Deb that just went by and waved. She saw that I was shooting. So at least in the front, all of them are tucked in, as are all of the daffodils that are in the new beds along the east side and going into the alley. They then, as they do, because they're so thorough, such great workers, they hosed everything off so that it looks nice for Thanksgiving. Now, we did do one thing a little bit differently that actually I don't know that I've ever done before, and this is a very subtle thing, but typically I only plant pansies and such along the border of the berms. This year I miscalculated how many I needed. I had more than I typically use, and I think that's because of the maturity of the plants that are already in place. So we went ahead and we went deep into the berms. You can see here. Usually it's just around the perimeter, but now we went deep into the berms to plant more of the pansies, and there are tulips that are underneath them. But what this will do is, as the tulips are beginning to emerge, and over the winter when the weather isn't really, really cold, then these violas and pansies, they will kind of hold that spot and provide a little bit of winter interest. And they will do that as long as it doesn't get bitter cold. And then even if it does get bitter cold, they will come back with a little bit of TLC, some feeding, and as the temperatures begin to warm up in the spring. But I like the effect of this better. Again, it's something I haven't done in the past, but I was telling you earlier, I think, that just having the pansies along the border wasn't cutting it for me. Something didn't look right. So I think this will look beautiful. I will like it. Then after Thanksgiving, I will put up my wreaths and dispense with the pumpkins because I don't like to mix the two. And I think all will be right with the world. In just a few, Hubs will be home and we'll have the flowers for the table, and I'll give you guys a glimpse of what the tables look like upon their completion. I am glad that I took all of the seed heads, the seed pods off of those trees. It will be, well, let's just say it's a very satisfactory Wednesday walkabout, even though I did not do the work. I've been inside cutting up onions, cutting up celery, and my hands smell just like those two things. I'm getting ready to go harvest some herbs from the back. And then later I will close this Wednesday walkabout with some glimpses of the table for Thanksgiving.